What has surprised you about the way that this unity government has progressed?
Well, what I thought at the time was I supported, and I played no great role in it, but supported the decision to do it where we were asked by politicians. And in trying to understand why we would say that, I think we saw this. On the day of the election, the ANC won 5% of its votes from traditional suburbia, middle class, but 40% from the urban fringe, the aspirant middle class. And the DA won more than half its votes from established suburbia and one less from the fringe. And that what the politicians were engaged in wasn't so much a unity government, a sort of Christmas tree, everyone hanging on it. It was a coalition between the ANC and the DA, but not to minimize the role of the others, just that they aren't actually necessary. But deeper than that, what the partners were doing is they were really striking a deal between, because these were the big political constituencies of the two parties, the established middle classes in suburbia and the aspirant middle classes on the urban fringe, township voting market. That is the only deal between South Africa's people that has the legs to become a sustainable model, because the interests of both parties are the same, I would say identical. Policies that advantage the established middle classes, advantage the aspirant middle classes. Property rights, own your own home, accumulate something that you own, wealth and assets, whatever level. Send your kids to good schools, safe neighborhoods, work and raise a family. And so what the reason to press for this and to say it was the right thing to do was that the structure of the deal at its heart was the only chance we have, and not a bad chance, at being a successful unitary state, holding together, governed out of Pretoria, the old union, sticking together. There was a theory that was interesting that don't do it. Let the EFF and MK and the ANC do their best. And what you will do as a consequence is you will create a starker choice for voters in future elections should the democracy hold together, which it probably would have. And that was a strategic option, and just on strategy, it was something that could have been done. But I think it was right not to do it, because the pain and suffering it would have caused for millions of people would have been so very great. So that's where we were at, and subsequently you can say it's been underwhelming. The growth rate is the same as before. Now, on that, a little tangent. Before the election, 7 out of 10 ANC voters thought the DA would bring back apartheid if it was ever in power. And also around 7 out of 10 thought if the ANC ever loses power, the country will collapse into anarchy and chaos. And by the GNU being, certainly the opposition in the GNU being quite obliging, you could say, in the early weeks of the thing, those fears dissipated to a great extent. And what that has allowed to happen, and it goes to what future elections might be, is a block of the ANC vote that remains, the 40%, has in a sense fractured from the ANC. It's no longer afraid of the idea of what happens if the ANC loses, because the country is as chaotic as before. No longer afraid of what the opposition might do, because they seem so very meek often. And it would have been wonderful had this GNU off the bat driven us to 5% growth. And it could have done so if it was led by more inspiring people. But I think to be realistic, and it's, politics very much the art of the possible, you should think of what's happened in the GNU as the beginning of a possible process that will might lead to a point in the fullness of time, where after the 2029 election, the ANC under perhaps firmer leadership, the DA under different leadership, the parties may still have the prospect of then coming together into a reform-minded GNU option. That's still an option on the table for the country. But I think it was the right decision. The alternative would have been truly devastating. We'd have been talking about very different kinds of data today than we are. And if I'm sort of on the upside of the GNU, it leaves us perfectly within reach of over the next 10 and then 20 years becoming that prosperous, high growth, successful society that we could so easily be.